welcome to the latest edition of the CommonSpace Show. I'm David Jamieson.
And I'm Rhiannon Davies, and we're joined today by Colette Walker, who is on the National Committee for Women for Indie, on the SIC Executive Committee, and also quite a ferocious campaigner for disability and human rights. Welcome, Colette.
Thank you.
We're going to get on in the second half of the show to discuss social care in Scotland. But before that, just want to talk about a couple of things that have been in the news. Eva Belanda and her £8,000 over 2 years, as some people vociferously remind you every so often, spent on various kind of luxury items of clothing, haircuts, shoes, that sort of thing. What are your thoughts on expenses? I mean, obviously it's a few years on from the great expenses scandal that engulfed Westminster. In many ways, I suppose, laid the path for where politics has gotten to now. Do you think politicians should have kind of caught up with that mood by now?
I think they should have by now, yeah. As you say, they say it's over the 2 years. But I feel that, okay, councillors don't get paid a great wage, not compared to like maybe MPs, etc. They, you know, it's considerably less than what they get paid. But and yes, she has to attend formal meetings, events, gatherings, etc. But there is a way of getting decent clothing at a decent price, and also there's ways of putting outfits together. And as a woman, I think we all know that we can get a few pieces and actually change them about. And it's not as if she's going to an event that's going to have the same people there all the time. They're not going to see her all the time. Like how often have we seen her at an event? Because I don't know what she's wearing. So it's not as if it's been televised all the time. It's private functions. So in that respect, yes, I understand that she might. It's just like everybody else. If you start a new job and it's a formal job, you need, you know, proper suits and formal wear. Yes, you will be out of a bit of expense. I think that maybe had taken it a little too far, and with the austerity that's going on just now, and people who are, you know, homeless, who are fighting the DLA into PIP, etc. Yeah, I think it's went a wee bit too far.
I think you made that point, didn't you, on Twitter perhaps, David, about the fact that she is also the person that was awarded the... an award for the equal pay strike.
Yeah, and it's Glasgow City Council as well, where, you know, women have been fighting for years to get equal pay. So you would have thought that you would maybe be just a bit more aware, really, more aware of what's happening. I do understand that, you know, you've started a new job. It's all very new to you. You've been given maybe an expenses forum and said, you know, you can claim expenses. Maybe you just got a wee bit carried away without really maybe possibly thinking about what was actually the figures on. But
it just seems a bit kind of blasé or naive or something.
It is a bit naive,
just to not think that wouldn't be okay. I mean, for me, it was a 23 pairs of shoes. I think I was saying earlier. I don't think I've ever owned 23 pairs of shoes in my whole life.
No, I think I've got about 3 different pairs of shoes.
Yeah, I get to be one at a time, and when it wears out, I get a new pair, and that's fine. Like,
you know, I have to watch what shoes I wear, but you know, even to get a good pair of shoes, it doesn't, you know, you can get a decent pair of shoes in the sales. You know, be savvy about it. You know, look for sales. You know, if you need a few pair of shoes, fair enough, but be a wee bit savvy with it.
Journalists are also expected to be well dressed, but if you bump into me at the forthcoming SNP conference, you'll probably see me wearing my one suit. That was my main thing was envy. My main thing was getting on the blower to Commonweal and saying, why aren't you buying me suits? I didn't even know this was a thing.
You mean to say you haven't spent £8,000 on your look, David? I thought that was highly crafted, expensive.
But see, that's the thing. They say, you know, like men wear the same kind of suits, but again, you have to still buy shirts and ties, and the shoes. We're talking like underwear.
You should buy shirts and ties. I mean,
David manages
with one or two,
but again, you know, you have to. You know, you would address it by wearing, you know, different shirts and maybe have a couple of different suits. Yes, it is a wee bit better for men. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that anybody has to be extravagant, but
there's that as
it's
well.
slightly different for men.
I did find it humorous when people are like that, 80 quid for a haircut. I get mine done 6 quid and all that kind of stuff. This has also went on in the United States, like AOC, Democratic left-wing politician in America. She spent like $200 or something on a haircut with like highlights and low lights and all that kind of stuff. And she's been inundated with abuse from the Republican Party saying, "Oh, a socialist is it?" And yet there you are spending $200 on a haircut. There's there's a massive gap in understanding of what goes on with a haircut.
But there's also that kind of discrepancy between what the media want women to look like. So the whole, like Kate Middleton gets hounded if she wears the same outfit twice. It becomes front of the Daily Mail if she's seen wearing the same £1,000 outfit twice. Or probably
but
more
you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And but what I was just saying there, it's slightly different for the likes of Kate and that, because she's out in the social media. She's out there. She's in public, whereas these events are private. They're not filmed. They're not put on, the TV or anything. You're not really seeing these people do these events. But again, the likes of, look at what happened with the likes of Theresa May and Nicola Sturgeon. It was, the picture of, they're talking about their shoes and things like that. They're thinking that you would never do that if it was David Cameron and, Donald Trump or something sitting together. You would go, look at their shoes, how much did they cost? So it's a bit of
an obsession with women's image.
It's a bit of hypocrisy,
So from the inanities of local politics to the terror of national politics, the Financial Times is their prediction is that there will now be a general election on the 5th of December. Quite a precise prediction to make. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, but I think a lot of people are saying we are heading to a general election this year. Thoughts on that? Besides, can't be bothered.
Partridge in the Pear Tree. Do we sing that every day leading down to Christmas? Oh my God! There will be a song coming out about that probably. what the different
I'm sure,
but it's not really great timing, to be fair. I do understand that. I think it's inevitable there has to be a general election. Whether what we're hearing from yesterday, whether Boris Johnson gets this deal with with Ireland, if they come across some great deal that seemingly they weren't able to do with Theresa May before, I don't really know what it's about. But even if they get that through, they still have to get it through Parliament. And even if Parliament do back it, which probably they won't, even if they did, he's got a minority government, so he can't work as a minority government, so it's inevitable it is going to happen.
It's hard to imagine the outcome from that election not being a minority government as well. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's going to be another hunt. And again, the problem being is, depending on what Nigel Farage is going to do with the Brexit Party, are they going to stand with Boris and work on seats to do with Brexit, or are they going to say, oh no, we're going to go for it, we want members in Westminster?
A lot now depends on what Nigel Farage decides to do.
I think it is.
Which is
it's quite scary, isn't it?
He's been controlling our country for years
I think
now.
he's
it's mad that
politician of the decade in terms of impact, given that he's the Brexit Party still don't have any seats, of course.
No,
UKIP never had more than 2 at a time.
No, he's a formidable character, and he's definitely Marmite. You actually love him or you absolutely hate him. He's very, very manipulative. Like at the start with Brexit, he was all for the Canadian deal. Now he's wanting a no deal or clean break, and you're just make up your mind. But everybody who supports him go along with anything he says, and I just think, he's listening to yourselves, because he keeps changing his mind, but you're just going along with it. So the general election, yes, it is inevitable. It's going to happen. It's not great timing leading up to Christmas. Don't think people really want to be going out as an activist. You don't really want to be going out at that time of year. It's a really busy time, especially with women who've got children. We're the ones normally, no disrespect, but we're the ones normally doing all the Christmas shopping for the family, getting all the food in for like the Christmas dinner, going to all the Christmas pantomimes for the kids at school. We're running about like idiots. But so for us then to be able to go out and campaign, there's yet another barrier for us to go out. You know, so women's voices are going to be less heard, I think, if they do set on the 5th of December than any other time of the year.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
I wonder if they'll be just quiet about it, because as far as I understand, this is going to be the first, if it does happen, the first December election since sometime in the 1920s. I think the early 1920s.
Yeah, I've
Very
never
historically
heard of it.
And there's the weather, of course, which does make campaigning a little less enjoyable than it.
And it's dark at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So, you know, there's that safety issue as well. You know, again, you're going out in the dark. So, no, it's not great timing. But then again, when is a great time for a general election, to be fair. But I think it all depends on what he gets from whatever's happening with Ireland just now. If he pulls a deal with them, but then again, it's always the blame game. If he doesn't, it's their fault.
They'll blame him.
You know, I mean, it's always somebody else's fault except Boris Johnson. You know what I mean? But it's funny how everybody's saying, oh, you know, he's working really hard, but then Theresa May done. Not that I'm siding with her or anything, but it's almost like, oh, she was absolutely pathetic. But Boris has not really achieved any much more. But he's working really hard. He's doing a really, really good job. You know, and you're just like,
what he's aiming for is just a version of May's deal as well.
Of course he is. Yeah. Of course he is. So he hasn't went for one border. He went for 2 borders. So that didn't really quite make a lot of sense. So I'm actually intrigued to find out what this welcoming discussion they had yesterday.
Yeah, what it looks like. Yeah,
I'm intrigued.
Right. So. We're going to move on to the second part of the show now. We're going to first of all just begin by watching a short interview that I did with the Cherry family, who I went out to visit in East Renfrewshire.
Yeah, it was just good. Autism, born with hydrocephalus. She had a shunt put in which takes the water away, but she's never needed that replaced, luckily. Started having severe seizures when she was 11 months, and that was several years where she was having even up to 30 seizures a day. Luckily that has subsided quite a bit, and she's got learning disability. She's non-verbal, tries to communicate by sounds and noises, as you can hear, and she's a feisty lady.
We knew, Mum and Dad and me as the third legal guardian, as the brother, that no matter what happened to any of us, Ruth was going to be safe and she was going to be... Yeah, you were going to be alright, eh? Yeah.
After looking after Ruth and caring for her for so long, it really took a long time for us to start adjusting to Ruth being in her own accommodation. And then of course the foundations were ripped away from that.
Installing the service could be easier or quicker. Small home, simple
The kind of explanation was that, as I say, that she it was so that people were staying over to prove that they needed to stay over.
Okay.
And it was coming even from the government saying that they needed to show where the funding was going. So it was expressed in that way that this would be the best way to prove that she still needed somebody. But further on, they were beginning to explain, well, actually we think it might work with her, and we went, no. And at the end of it, they just said, no, we've decided, the trial is over, and that's fine. We can go ahead with it, and it starts on the 9th, and that was only a week and a half ahead.
And we hear about how the fire brigade say this isn't safe. We talk to the police and they say
We actually got a copy of the AP1 form that the fire brigade
Right.
completed and sent to East Renfrewshire.
And then the police came back and said that they're beginning to have to devote some resources to things because they're finding that people in these overnight technological care systems are wandering out of homes and having to be brought to safety by police officers. And then Ruth's GP wrote a letter condemning this, and it just seems like every turn we keep talking to new people, and it's not like anyone's turned around and we're like, oh no, it'll be a good idea in the end, this is all great. Nobody is, and
that's what I find really difficult. It's just like that everybody else is like, no, this is not right for Ruth, except East Renfrewshire Council.
If someone like Ruth, who can't talk, who can't walk, who needs washed and fed and toileted and cared for, sorry Ruth, but all these things, and she doesn't get a human's looking after her overnight, and who does? I've started to hear from lots of different people that this is happening to them, so I've had messages from a couple of different families now, and even an individual themselves who is able to communicate and is dealing with this themselves, and they're not getting the overnight care, and it's in East Renfrewshire, but it's also happening in Glasgow. And we know that this was nearly going to happen to someone we know with complex needs similar to Ruth in East Lothian, and they were able to stop it by petitioning the council. So when I think about our situation with all the support we have, it makes me really sad and horrified to think about what it must be like for the people that don't really have any support and are on their own, and then having to deal with the same thing being pushed upon them. I think in the midst of all the madness and the chaos and the pressure, I think there's a bit of a kind of human side of it that's been missed, and trying to save 70% of the overnight care budget in East Renfrewshire by replacing it with technology for just about everyone, I don't think that's a really good human way to survive the cuts. Ruth is a human, being left overnight for 10 hours, you know, doesn't get to have water, doesn't get to go to the toilet, that's not something anyone else has to do. Yeah. So why does that have to happen for Ruth?
So that was the Cherry family. Colette, I know that you know the family quite well. I mean, what did you think when you first heard that this was happening to them, this kind of move to telecare?
To say that I was shocked is an understatement. To say I was surprised, no, I wasn't. Because the exact thing was going to happen to my son as well. They were looking into when he gets his own place. My son's 18, he's totally blind, profoundly autistic, non-verbal, like Ruth. And they said that when he eventually gets his own place, he wasn't going to get 24-hour care, he was going to get the telecare. So I had to fight to make sure that he got the 24-hour care, because there was just no way I was going to leave my son in by himself.
Could you explain what the telecare is? Because I only found out about this recently.
Okay, so telecare, we're talking now in society about it's becoming a very robotic society. You know, you've got your self-check-in, you know, and you've got your self-service in shops. So basically, the telecare is it's very powerful. It's a good piece of equipment, but it's not it's got to be person-centred. It's not for everybody. So basically, there's sensors wherever they feel that the sensors are needed for alarms, and in the room that the person's going to sleep in, there is very slightly, but sometimes it can be like a laptop that sits, and the cameras stay off for your privacy and your dignity. But if an alarm goes off for any reason, then the laptop screen will come up, and the cameras come on, and then the person can see that person and talk to that person and say, "Are you okay?" etc. So you've got, alarms on doors, you've got alarms on windows, you've got sensor pads in case somebody gets out of their bed. So yes, it's very high tech equipment that they use. I'm not denying that. And it can be very, very good for certain individuals, but not for the likes of Ruth and not for the likes of my son, who are completely vulnerable and are not capable of doing really much for themselves. And the frightening thing with it is, it's how long then does somebody, once these alarm goes off, how long does somebody then come to the place that they're staying in?
Because this is an alternative to having a carer
Yes,
in the house.
so there's nobody in that building whatsoever, in the premises whatsoever. So you're talking about, if you remember last year, we had the beast from the east. Now, can you imagine if a sensor goes off and you've got somebody on a computer saying, hi Ruth, or to my son, hi Kieran, are you okay? What's the matter? Well, my son can't talk, Ruth can't talk, so they can't tell you what's the matter. That person on that screen does not know this person from Adam. So they don't know their needs. They don't understand maybe what their motions or their voices or their sounds that they're making, what they mean. But if you've got weather like the beast from the east, how does anybody get to them? And it's not as if like Ruth or my son could then phone up and say, oh, I'm worried, I'm scared, Mum, and they can't do that.
It's just so dehumanising, isn't it? I mean, it's one thing putting in self-checkout tills at supermarkets, but automating care just seems like, in these kind of cases, just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And the thing with Ruth, she did have 24-hour care. When she moved into her flat, they did provide her with 24-hour care. And now obviously she doesn't have it. Then they discovered that the equipment finished at 7:30 in the morning, and the carers didn't go into 8 o'clock in the morning. So there was half an hour. Now, half an hour to some people think, well, it's only half an hour. This girl's epileptic. You saw her mum saying about her banging her head, etc. That she can cause a lot of damage within half an hour.
And also, if there was a fire, there's literally no one there to monitor that.
Well, and that was one of the cases I had to put forward to the council when I said there was no way my son was being left on his own, because I had to make it very personal by saying that my aunt died in a fire, which she did. Because she was trapped. My aunt was paralysed down one side, and she was actually trapped in her house. Now, she was able to phone the fire brigade, but the fire brigade never got to my aunt on time. So I had to make it really personal, but you shouldn't have to justify why you're saying. Now, my son and Ruth have always needed one-to-one care. And for some reason then, when they go from being legally a child to legally an adult, then seemingly they don't need one-to-one care anymore.
And yet their needs don't change.
Their needs don't change. I don't understand it, because not like all of a sudden overnight does their disabilities change. I would love it if they did. It would be absolutely great, but they don't. So I don't understand. And again, I don't understand when she was given the 24-hour care, and that was all part of the transition to get her flat. The family knew she was getting the 24-hour care, because I can say categorically 100% that if they knew that Ruth wasn't getting the 24-hour care, they would not have moved her in. They would have kept her at home.
I find this issue horrifying for a couple of reasons. One is the number of people who require social care is going to massively increase over the next few decades as the population ages. And also, you can see right here in this instance, you can either have new technologies harnessed to improve the condition of human life, but they can also be harnessed to reduce the quality of human life by removing the human element, because it's expensive. This is presumably part of austerity, and then having sort of automated systems that don't have that kind of human quality of care. That care is a very uniquely human thing. I'm not convinced technology can do it.
No, it can't do it. And there's a thing there's a difference between hearing a voice in the distance
And
to
knowing-
actually having somebody going, "Are you okay?
Yeah.
You know, it's fine. You'll be all right." That gives you that, and especially the likes of my son who doesn't see anything at all, just to have that physical contact, that reassurance that there's actually somebody with him, and he's not just. Can you imagine just being in a black room and just somebody talking to you, and there's alarms going off, and you're scared witless? You know, there's no money that's priceless to just have that bit of reassurance. And in this day and age, yes, I understand, as you said, people are living longer, but when you come to social care, it can actually cause more issues in a domino effect, and it's going to cost more money in the long run, because again, the stress that they're putting on the families as well.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a counterbalance here, that the families that are dealing with this, I know myself, so does the Cherry family. The stress that actually puts me as a carer under, and them as carers, it's so stressful, and it's a lot for us to deal with as well, which we shouldn't really have to do. But again, people automatically think about social care for older people.
Yeah.
You know, social care is for a multitude of things, and it could be just a case of, you know, me needing, because of my visual impairment, I might need a sight guide to go to an event or a venue or something. So I might need care for my own safety. But there's less and less people coming into social care. And again, I hate to say it, but Brexit isn't helping.
It's a real crisis, obviously, in rural Scotland at the moment, I think, when there just isn't anyone taking up those jobs, and as less and less people are coming from the EU and the other countries who are traditionally taking on those jobs,
and
it's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse, and I know people say, "Oh, Brexit gets blamed for everything," but it is true. No, 6%, roughly about 6% of the social care employment is EU. So if they can't get, you know, their status, their settlement status confirmed, then they're off, they're away, they're gone. And again, with now the wage being 30,000 to come and work here, no social care employer earns £30,000. It's on average the higher end 18,000. So there's no way they're going to come over.
Which I think is shocking in itself. The fact that we pay people who do such important work so little
for you know, looking after the most vulnerable person in your family, whether it is your child or your parent. You know, I mean, my mum had a major stroke last year, and she needed to go into a care home, and that is very, very experienced staff that had to deal with my mum, because she was solely reliant on them doing everything for her. And they're getting paid a really, really crappy pay. And you just think, and again, it's even years ago when I was a nursery nurse, and people used to talk about, you know, childcare, and I know that childcare is quite expensive, but again, I was responsible for your most vulnerable and your most cherished thing in the world, you know what I mean? So I needed to go through college, etc. So you have to pay for expertise. You have to pay for that.
Why do we value people who look after our money more than people who look after our loved ones?
That's it. And you know, don't get me wrong, we're really lucky here in Scotland that we've got the Health and Social Care Partnership, that it works fairly well, especially to do with moving from hospitals to maybe either like a care home or a residential home and things like that. There's not a lot of bed blocking compared to, but there's going to have to be reform here, because people's lives are being damaged by it.
And you were in Parliament yesterday, actually, weren't you, talking about some of these changes which could happen? So can you talk a little bit about?
There was a launch of the Disabled Children and Young Adults Bill. Joanne Lamont was proposing this, so it was the launch of this. There's no actual bill in law to talk about where either the councils or parents are legally allowed. So there's no comeback. So each is a postcode lottery. You know, one council can do one thing, another council. So carers are saying, "Oh, but they got that service. But we don't do that." but they got that. No, we don't do that. It's not our policy. So it's a postcode lottery. Whereas this bill then is going to have, a strategy structure. So to give, hopefully, a much more balanced and time for the families to be able to sit and plan what they want for the future of their children and young adults after leaving school. They know that they're allowed to sit and plan and have a strategy, and it has to be heard and listened to, and it has to be put forward, and it's not just a case of, oh no, we don't do that. So there's a consultation that's out now, because the launch was the other day, so the consultation's out just now, and it's running now till I think the end of January. Okay. So I would ask everybody who's a carer or really interested in disability rights, etc., to look on the Scottish Government website and look for this consultation. Again, it's the Disabled Children and Young Adults Transition Bill. Try and get that filled out, because we really need to know exactly how people feel, and then it'll go on to Parliament for debate.
And just kind of, if we were to imagine a sort of a future in Scotland where social care was improved for people, what would that look like? What were the main changes that you would like to see happen in Scotland to make it work in a fairer way for everyone?
Well, again, better pay for social care. I think they have to look at the actual job description anyway. I think, because again, you can put as much money into any organisation. If you don't have the staff there, you don't have the expertise, it's just going to fall. It's a failure already. So we need to look at how we bring staff in, good quality staff that are wanting to, work weekends and, evenings, etc. And a lot of people don't, because of what they're earning just now. So again, you have to look at the staff, look at the job description. I think also you have to look at, again, like this bill that I'm talking about, actually listening to the people that are involved with the person that's needing the care. It has to be person-centred. It can't be one shoe fits all, because even though you say disabled or autistic or registered blind or whatever it might well be, that's an umbrella word. That's a spectrum. Everybody's different. We're all unique. My son's got the same eye condition as me. He's got no sight at all. I have some. It doesn't work that we're all the same. So yeah, I want it to be person-centred, and I want to focus on the actual the staff and the quality of staff.
I mean, in general, the priorities of society in coming decades are going to need to completely change.
Absolutely, and as I say, I'm not totally against the telecare. I really am not against telecare, because it can work for some individuals that are a lot more independent than others, but they really have to look at the person on an individual basis, listen to the people that have already cared for them, and it has to be a wee bit more humane. May I say humane? Because it's not really humane to leave somebody as vulnerable as that by themselves.
It's not much to ask, is it? I mean, just
not,
basic
no.
human rights. The fact access to water is quite a simple one.
Well, when you think about it, like Ruth and my son, who they might have a physical age of, my son's 18, Ruth's in her 20s, but their mental age is not equivalent to that. They're a lot younger mentally. So my son's maybe mental age of about 10-year-old. You would not leave a 10-year-old in a house by themselves. It's illegal. So why is it? Because it's their physical age, it's not their mental age. So again, you have to look at that as well. You have to look at the comparisons.
Great. Well, thank you very much for talking to us, Colette. And thanks for telling us about the consultation. So we'll put the details up about that, so people want to take
Excellent,
part in
thank
that, join in. And that's all from us. If you have any comments or questions or feedback, please let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.